Hey guys, Cassie here, coming at you with our trick of the week. We're going to talk about hip keys or hip lock, whatever your studio might call it. Here at Desert Sun Yoga, I teach it in 3 different phases, and each phase is meant to emphasize a different aspect of your hip key. The first is baby hip key, where students are really just learning about fabric placement, getting used to the sensation of the fabric on their bodies in that way. Now, the second stage is what I call half hip key, where students learn the difference between using their upper body to get them into the hip key versus using whole body to get into the hip key, and really working on your obliques and your pelvic movement to get you there. Just using your arms, of course, will get you there, but you're really just gonna OD your forearms, your hands, your upper body, and honestly, the technique looks sloppy. The third stage is going to teach students for our full hip key, or like the main one that we tend to do here at Desert Sun Yoga, is really teaching them a nice climb up and how to situate the fabric just to get yourself properly into the hip key. So we do 3 different phases. As far as prerequisites for this, students need to know seatbelt, starfish, easy roll, and gazelle. So basically, if your student knows how to do an easy roll, they know everything that they need to get into this, okay? I love to do fan kicks to warm students up for this. Any shoulder exercises and warm-ups are great as well. First stage, baby hip key. You'll bring one thigh through your fabric, and you want the fabric pretty high up on your leg. I like to think about it just barely underneath my butt. Now, whatever leg is in the swing, both hands grab low, or that hand grabs low onto both handles. This hand will let go first. It just helps keep the fabric together so that you can get it nicely situated in your hip crease of the opposite leg. Whatever leg is free, that hand grabs high onto both handles to provide support as you fan kick your free leg up and over. So I'm gonna bring my free leg off the floor, again, just to make sure I'm not really pushing off the floor, and instead I'm really using my core and my pelvis to make this happen. So foot lifts off the floor, it comes up and over so that you get the fabric into the hip crease. I can't really turn myself, but I'm in the hip crease, there we go, of the opposite side. Now I'll tell students you can cross your legs or curl into a little ball to really feel the security here. You can let your legs go long and squeeze into a little pike. I have students do this about twice on each side, holding for a breath or 2. And then we drill it out so they really get the sensation of where the fabric needs to be for security. So foot lifts off the floor, and you exhale hip key, inhale, bring it back. Exhale hip key, inhale, bring it back. And I'll have them usually do that 6 to 10 times on each side. Now, half hip key comes from starfish. So seatbelt, up into your starfish. So we'll do the same thing that you did on the ground, only this time you're only hip keying into one handle. Now, the first method I show people is the one that I don't really want them to get used to using. It's the pull method. So if I bring both hands onto one handle, I'm gonna pull myself towards that handle and bring that fabric into the hip crease of my opposite leg. So I push against the fabric and stack my hips one on top of the other. So that's a really easy way to get into this. Of course, not the best technique. So the other method is with a fan kick. I'm gonna go into the same handle. I'm gonna take that arm and wrap it around the lower part of my back so I'm not tempted to use it. And don't be nervous about this if your student doesn't make it in. The fabric is right on your thighs, so if you go backwards, you catch at your knees, you're in seatbelt. Okay, so my arm is wrapped around my back. A little bit, I use my opposite hand to push myself away from my opposite handle as I fan kick that leg up and over, okay? So it's a little subtle, but it really starts to get your core and your pelvis to make the move happen. All right, so that is half hip key. Usually I have them use both methods twice on each side. And a lot of your students won't make it at first because they'll lean really far backwards into it. It won't quite get onto their hip crease, and they'll slide on down into their seatbelt. So that also teaches them a lot about fabric placement and hoisting yourself up just in the right spot to be able to hold, okay? Now, the third method, full hip key, you can do it in two different ways. The first way, from starfish, you easy roll, both hands grab onto one handle, you bend the knee of the handle you're grabbing onto, roll forwards until you've got both handles together, and you grab onto your opposite handle. Usually, students will have slid down a little bit. You want the fabric to be just below your butt. So you use your leg to push into the fabric as you pull yourself up, so the fabric is just below your butt. And then again, use your bottom leg like you're doing a fan kick, bring it up and over. So you're really nicely in your hip key instead of having to use your upper body to pull, and bring you in. Okay? So usually I'll teach that starfish easy roll method first because it's a little bit easier in a double point system to have students do it that way and get used to using their leg to pull them up a little bit to help them get into the hip key, because the final variation requires much more of a climb. I'll start in seatbelts. Then you pike your legs together so that it's easy for you to take one leg and hook it over both handles. Stretch your opposite leg behind you for gazelle. It's a big crunch. You want to keep squeezing your heel to your glute as you crunch up and grab as high onto your handles as you can. The fabric is at your knee, so I don't want all of your upper body to do the work here. One, because it's ODing your upper body and it just doesn't look as nice. So I like to kick my leg up, push into your leg as you pull up so the fabric comes just below your butt. Then same thing, fan kick your free leg up and over so that you're nicely in your hip key. And that is a great way to start learning hip keys on your hammock for a level 2 class. In level 3 classes, we start to hip key just by climbing to one handle, and it starts to get real tough. I hope everybody is safe at home, and I hope that you have access to a swing or that you're storing up all of this knowledge for when you're back.